Hey Rochelle, it's Jackie Tone, Section E. Going to be doing my eval defense paper orally. So first off, our objective was B for physical activity. We wanted to see how physical activity benefits health and enforce that on the students' knowledge, okay? So first question, how does your unit assessment plan apply a balanced approach considering assessment for, as, and of learning opportunities? Well, we hit all of them. It wasn't a complete balance per se, but I guess we went in the direction we thought was right for our techniques, our tools that we used. So we have a lot of formative, which I think it benefits the students more because we're changing what we're doing based on a student's readiness and how far we're going to go for the next lesson or what we might need to cover again. For the as learning, we did the nutrition plan as well as the peer teach. So obviously teaching each other, they're going to feed off each other's ideas for their own projects, stuff like that, or maybe learn something they didn't know before. For the nutrition plan, besides from the fitness plan, this one is based on a peer's goals, not yourself. So you learn from them in that way. Maybe again things they haven't thought of before. So working collaboratively that way and getting feedback on maybe process of making a nutrition plan and different aspects that maybe you thought you might not have used. And summatively, we thought we'd get a grade from just about everything we would want to see handed in. The journal is strictly formative, so we left that out. We had a little bit of debate about it, but we want that to be more of a participation thing, which had the most weight, if I could touch on that quickly. We've made that about 35%. The rest are between 15 and 20, with a good balance there. So we think participation, basically doing the assignments, you're participating. So, I mean, they go hand in hand, and I don't think making one assignment worth 40% and the other like 20 and going in that route would be beneficial to the student. We want to enforce a positive work ethic, so I think by adding that participation mark is kind of like a reward for doing your assignments, and it should just be a bonus mark at the grade 10 level specifically. Just make sure I didn't miss anything. Alright, so why did you incorporate the assessment tools that you did, taking into consideration the intended learner outcomes? Okay, first of all, our objectives are very specific, and it's important to note here that a lot of them, all but one, B10-7 I think, but all but one say evaluate, connect, create, select, all but one which said understand. So this is really putting the learning on the student, and we're just kind of guiding them to it. So at the grade 10 level, we want them to take responsibility for their learning, and these objectives really hit that. And I feel like there's no other way but then to put it on the students that way. So we give them ideas and stuff like that, but again, just want them to take responsibility for their learning. So what else did we do here? Let me just pull it up. The quiz will be on nutrition and fitness principles. These are some of the understanding objectives, and they're basically ... Here are the principles. So we want to see what you know, obviously. But then further than that, we want to apply it. So we only made that out of 10%. The fitness plan. So that is on your personal goals. So that hits the goal setting right off the bat, which is one of the quality assessment targets as said in the textbook. But so we added that in there. Yoga teach. So that's for summative. That tool is again getting the peers to work together, and they do have a choice as to what they're going to teach. So I think that's important. Give a little bit of variety there. Activity and participation, again, really we think it's important to our classroom, and we want to see your work ethic, and we want you to take that outside of the classroom setting. So overall, I think we have a good variety of tools for assessment. Those were the summative, but besides the journal and the debate, we get the oral, we get the written, we get just kinesthetics, stuff like that. So I think we're hitting a multitude of, I guess, instructional teaching and form of assessment. Okay, moving on. How do your choices reflect effective assessment practices? Okay, so I took our trusty textbook here. And actually the first couple of pages, I don't remember if I read it in your class or Curtis's class, but it talks about quality assessment practices. And there's 5 keys here. Okay. So the first one's having specific information. So basically all of our assessments follow a objective, 1 or 2 max. So that's really specific, and I think we would further this in our lesson to say, okay, today's objectives is, and then bring the assignment into key there. Second one is targets. Again, your objective, this is what I want you to learn, aim for that goal. Accurate measures. Again, this is different for everyone. This would be a good way to input differentiated instruction. I want to know what you've learned, and a test might not be appropriate for everybody, and we understand that, so we would accommodate that depending on the students. Results are communicated. Obviously, everything would be communicated with the students. I think you learn more from talking things over rather than here's your mark, you're going to learn from this grade. Like, that doesn't really work, so we would always talk about the grades we give them, even if they're formative. And the last one, which is the most important, is involve the students. This is, I think, key to teaching. You should be student-centered when you're teaching and everything you do. So if you're not thinking about the student first, it's probably not going to go well, or it's not accurate in that measure. Stemming from this, I just want to mention, I can't pronounce his name, but the author's name is Zuhal. He wrote an article called Teachers' Evaluation of Student-Centered Learning Environments. And the main goal of this is, he did some research, and it says teachers should allow students time to learn on their own. And the areas of focus are time, place, infrastructure, and psychosocial interaction. So he's saying, like, he goes into a bit of how just peer teaching just engages the mind so much more than just a teacher, because it's almost like an authority figure looking down saying, like, you should know this, rather than just conversing, and have more activity that way, and it just works on social skills besides that. But he really enforces student responsibility in learning, and not all the time. I mean, we do have a role, and that's why we're employed, but as many personal connections the student can make, and as many opportunities you can give them to do that, that's the best way you're going to find accurate information, and makes your reporting easier that way. And the last question, how will your UAP provide the acceptable evidence to make fair and accurate judgments regarding student learning? It's important to know that to be fair isn't always equal. I think I've learned that, and it's appropriate everywhere. But I think for our unit, we want to be constantly checking and constantly giving feedback, so the student can learn at their own pace, and if it's time to move them on, then we will. We provide multiple ways to demonstrate your learning, like peer teach, written, oral. We've already been through this. And like you said in the class the other day, if I give you a bunch of these summative grades, and at the end of the day I have to report what you've learned, the parachute example, I don't care if you learned it right at the beginning and you kept going, or you learned it at the end. As long as you've gotten the objectives that I'm aiming for you to get there, and that's all that matters. So if there's some adjustments that I need to do to reflect what you've actually learned, that will be done. And so that's why fair isn't always equal, and that's how it comes into play there. So I hope I was thorough enough for you. Sorry, it's just late at night here, but yeah, Thank you very much for a great class, and I will see you at Culmination. Thanks.